I felt that way about what I was observing. And as that feeling started to grow, that's when the tug came again. And I just said, okay, I'll go. I didn't know where I was going. I didn't know who or what was tugging me. But I just relaxed into it. And as soon as I relaxed energetically into it, I was pulled out of the room, and I went through that wall to my left, and I was in this bright white space, just a quick flash of like the brightest white you could ever imagine. And then moved into that space, and then moved through another sort of indistinct opening into dense, particulate, dark kind of matter that I was. And I was moving like super fast. Like I wouldn't even be able to measure the speed. It's like, I just liken it to what the speed of light must be like, how fast it was. And I'm just zipping along in this space. And again, still feeling quite neutral, just, sort of like a relaxed kind of feeling that any of us could have while physical beings, just sort of hanging out and watching a movie or something, watching television or whatever, sitting on a beach. And I looked to my left and I could see the dense particles. And then it became a little bit fluid at points where it was sort of like a liquidy, grayish, white, black. And then it would become the dense particles again. And then I remember looking back, like in front of me. And then I came to a stop within this dense particulate space. And there was this download, sort of like a funnel of information. And it seemed to happen like all at once, but it was like, and then right in front of me, like everything sort of was deduced to one thing, and that was love. And it was like the way that I described that experience, that part of the experience, was I'd liken it to like all the questions I'd ever had in my life were all answered, and every answer pointed to love. And then I felt this love, and it was just beyond any kind of human description. It was completely blissful, completely detached, no judgment, no conditions, eternal. It just was absolutely everything. I was it. And then there was what caught my attention to my right off in the distance was this little white light. And I felt it. I felt this energy of it wanting me to go to it. And I wanted to go. I had no resistance at all. It was a completely non-resistant environment. And I moved towards it. And as I moved towards it, it got wider, like bigger, wider, bigger, wider. And in the opening, it was circular. And it was like a cloudy gray, more white than gray. And there were these shadow figures, like humanoid, in the opening. And in the front was a little boy. And the little boy had really indistinct, but had like a wide brim hat and overalls. And I would say he was about 7 years old. And he needed my help. And then there were adults behind him. And again, very indistinct. Like if you took a gray Sharpie and drew like a stick figure, that's kind of like what they looked like. And there were no faces or anything. And they were behind him, and he needed my help. So I went towards him. I wanted to help him. And again, still very neutral. There was no scariness about it. There was absolutely no fear. So then they started to sort of dart at me and dart away, dart at me and dart away, one by one. And I realized that they were taking my energy. And I felt myself and it was so similar to how I experienced my eyes closing before I died. It was just like this fading away of the light. It was like, I felt myself fading, diminishing in that space. in my desire to help them all. And I felt, wait, I don't want to go away. I don't want to disappear. And as soon as I felt that, I was pulled out of there. The universe sort of answered my desire and removed me from that environment and back into the dense, dark particulate matter again. And I was moving along again, like imperceptibly fast, but for a shorter period of time. But there was no time. But that's the word we use. The experience was shorter. I perceived it as being shorter. And then I went through another less sort of distinct opening than the first one. The first one was sort of like a white environment and then the particulate matter on the other side. This was sort of like an easing of the particulate matter away into this like gorgeous landscape where there were yellow flowers spread out in front of me. And beyond that, there were, in the distance, there were these green rolling hills dotted with trees and flowers, and then a blue sky. And to my left, there was this waterfall covered with moss. And to my right, there was this dense evergreen forest. And I just sort of merged, as I came through the opening, I just sort of like merged with all of it. I was the flowers and the rocks and the waterfall and the trees and the grass and everything. And it was just like this divine sort of like rejoining of me with me, it felt like. And I could have existed there eternally. It was completely blissful and beautiful and everlasting. And like humanly, from a human perspective, all my needs were met. Like I couldn't have wanted for anything ever. I could have just stayed there. And then as I felt that, I was flanked on both sides by these beings that were very elongated and beige, and they were like kind of in drapes of cloth of some sort, but very, again, like very indistinct. It wasn't really defined. They didn't have distinct faces. They were energies that took this form, and they were communicating to me energetically again. There was no like telepathic or telepathy. I hear some other people who have had experiences talk about telepathy as the communication. It was, everything for me was through feeling. And they felt to me, you could stay here, you could go to what comes next, or you could go back to where you came from. And they were very neutral, very supportive. They were like your big brother or sister who is like there for you 100%, like no judgment, loves you and wants to just support you. And so they communicated this to me, and I had this choice to make. And I felt it through for just, a brief, I don't know, second or two maybe. And I didn't know why I was choosing, but I felt back, I'd like to go back. And I didn't have a reason that I knew of at that time. And as soon as I felt that, I started moving backwards through the opening. I could see the beings sort of turn to face me partially, and they communicated to me, if you go back, you need to share what you learned here. And I felt back to them, okay,